I know you missed us. The Blazer Focus podcast is back. Aaron Fentress along with Craig Birnbach. Unfortunately, we got nothing new to report on the Damian Lillard situation. It's still chaos. It's still a mess. Training camp is only like 11 days away. I'm going to be there in Santa Barbara. Am I going to be covering Dame drama, or am I becoming the start of the Scoot Shaden era? I don't know yet, but we're going to talk about that and more here on the Blazer Focus podcast with my main man, Craig Birnbach. Craig, what's up? How's your summer been?
Hey, man.
I guess your summer's over. Your summer's over.
Chaotic.
You're back in school mode, right?
Oh, yes. I'm working. I'm happy to be having that. My kid's in kindergarten, so my life is full of new stresses and wonderings, but I missed you, so I'm glad. I am not super shocked at this point that the Lillard thing hasn't moved forward in any way. Well, I'm not shocked that the trade hasn't happened. I am shocked that there's been almost no movement. And I will answer your first question. You are definitely going to be covering the Scoot, Shaden, Sharp, era of Blazers basketball. It's just whether or not there's a big shadow behind it. Because I can promise you there isn't going to be a day. I don't know if I can promise, but I feel strongly that there's no room for a Damian Lillard, Shaden, Sharp, Scoot, Henderson movement.
There might be to start the season. Team. Okay, let's start with what's okay. So what's out there now is just a lot of reporting, air quotes, about there's more talks going on. The Blazers have picked up the pace and they're talking to teams. However, I'm hearing they haven't really talked to Miami yet, and Miami's kind of sitting there waiting. But they are talking to other teams in terms of trying to find another team who might give them an offer for Lillard. Two other teams who might get involved had nothing to do with Miami in a trade, and maybe Lillard goes to one of those teams. That's out there. I'm told that there's not great traction in these areas, that they're really not being wowed by anything that's substantial. Otherwise, I think we would have heard about it by now, especially from the national guys who have sources all over the league, not just with one team. And it's looking like it could be headed to Dame being in camp. I'm fascinated by that. I think it's amazing that we're at this point. It's kind of trippy to me that they just took 2 months off and did nothing, and now they're trying to scramble to get something done now. I don't know if that strengthened their position. I've kind of heard that it hasn't, that it's kind of, this whole thing is being viewed as kind of a clown show in a lot of different ways. We'll see how it ends up. But as we get ready for camp, I guess, the first question is, what level of ridiculousness have we reached? Or do you think everything's copacetic and moving along at the right pace?
I don't think it's copacetic. But I think it takes, these things and negotiations. I've been involved in some negotiation things in my life. It's always crazy until it gets done. Nothing matters except for the deal. So you got 11 days. It's kind of like it'll take a day, for it to happen, and then it's over. So I don't get too hung up with the countdown or listening to rumors here, rumors there, except for the one where the Blazers haven't spoken to Miami in a real situation, right? That part is interesting to me. Now, is their goal to come and have 2 offers and say to Miami, what you got? And what does that mean for Damian Lillard? Damian Lillard, based on what the NBA has said, cannot openly tell anyone anymore that he's not going to play for people because he'll get fined. It doesn't mean he'll play for people just because he won't say it. He can't say he's not going to report to camp, but he could not report to camp.
But I've been told that he would. He would show and do his due diligence, get paid, and just try and get out. Unless, I still think, if he went to Milwaukee, let's say he goes to Milwaukee, he walks in there and he sees Giannis. And he goes, oh my God, I've never played with anything remotely close to that monster. We can win this thing. Then I think maybe he smells a ring, and I think he's like, all right, I can do this. I still think that could happen, but you're still running the risk. You should clear it with him before you pull the trigger and make sure that he's going to come in there.
Oh, absolutely. No one's trading for Damian Lillard.
Because if you do,
without that,
you're
not trading for Damian Lillard and hope he plays.
I love when people say, but he's going to be professional. He's going to go out there basically just be a good little boy and do what he's told. Yeah, but NBA players, if it's ever a sport where you can go out there and mail it in, but still go 25-8, you know what I'm saying? It's the NBA. He can average 25-8 and be mailing it in and not necessarily playing winning basketball. That's the thing about the NBA. Like you say all the time, someone's got to score some points. Is it efficient points? Is it but if you're scoring 25, are you being horribly lazy on defense and just giving up an extra 10 you shouldn't have? Do those 8 assists come with 2 ridiculous turnovers that happen because you just don't care? Are you leading? Are you doing the little things? So he can go somewhere and put up numbers and still just not want to be there and be like, I want out, and be an unhappy camper. And so I don't know why a team would want that. The other thing I want to point out is I've been saying this since day one. The age freaking matters. 33, and that contract matters. People try to pretend it didn't, but now you're seeing other people talk about it more and more about that contract is the albatross. What are they going to do when he's 36? That's a lot of money to be paying a 33-year-old. So that's being factored into this now more so as well, which I think is limiting what the Blazers can even get from other teams, because other teams see that too, and the Blazers' mindset is still, we're trading 28-year-old Damian, which you're not. So you're not going to get that value. So it's all just annoying right now. Huh?
But this is, of course, this is all what happens in negotiation. You're trying, now you're a team that might be interested in Dame. You're going to play up as much as you can,
right?
Why he's less valuable.
And that's what they're going to,
but
it's legit.
Trust me, when the team takes Dame, and it's a real thing, but when a team takes Dame, they're suddenly going to tell you how many, that he's in great shape. He's going to be great. We've seen the Chris Pauls of the world, the LeBron James of the world. It's all part of the dance, right? But it's real. It's a lot of money for a 33-year-old. There's a big difference between 33 and 23. 10 years, as a matter of fact. And I don't even have a math degree. But, he's not 28 is like, that's, in the NFL, they say after 28, a running back's done. You know what I mean? Like there's things that happen for most athletes. Now, Dame has had a career where he did not get injured much. His knees have been good. His legs have been good. He had a midsection injury and, some foot stuff. But at 33, you worry. You have to. But you could trade that for a championship. I mean, I'm a Knicks fan. It's not going to happen anymore because we got a point guard. But trust me, I would gladly take Damian Lillard for 2 years, win a title, and then suck for another 4. Because we sucked for 30 years. So, that's.
But you got to be a team. But you got to be a team that can actually win a championship with him. You can't be. That's just flipping a coin. Otherwise, I think you're wasting money and time. Yeah.
Right. That's why that's where there's not that many teams, and you need money. You got to have the space. You got to be able to make it work. You got to have assets. And that's the problem, is that this is not. We've talked about it. He's not Kevin Durant, right, and he's not 27, 28 years old. And his contract's as big as it can get. It's huge. So, but I still don't, I'm not at this place where oh my God, it's never going to happen, whatever. Now, a day before camp, I'll be in a different place because I don't think bringing him back makes so little sense to me. And all those people say he's under contract, he's got to play. Okay, whatever, that's fine. You're not winning it. You're like, what's your points to win a championship, right? That's what it is. What are you going to do? You have 3 point guards now. One's a 33-year-old all-star. One's a 25-year-old guy that you've been grooming to be the replacement that can play the 2. And now you just drafted a 19-year-old to play the position. What are you talking about? What is the point of this? The point is what? To try to get a better deal? At what point is it that's the best deal we have? And once we start playing, I mean, when you go into a season, you are now looking at multiple teams starting to play actual basketball. And some of the teams that thought they might need a point guard might go, I think we're okay. Yes, there's a chance someone gets hurt or Miami becomes more desperate, but Miami's not a desperate organization. Pat Riley's, it's Pat Riley. Come on, stop. You're not going to scare Pat Riley into something. Their coach is the best coach in the NBA. He's been coaching the Heat since he was 8. He's not worried about his gig. We're not looking at a desperate team here. So it seems weird that Portland seems to be trying to play hardball with an Oregon. Like, sit down, talk about it, and then either come out and say, there's no way, there's no fit for Miami. Sorry, Dame, there's no fit. What are we going to do? Right. Or make the trade. I mean, that to me seems like what you should do, because Miami's not going to go, oh my God, what are we going to, oh my God, I've never been in a situation like this. Or what about my legacy? Pat Riley's like, yeah, let me hang my rings up on all these things. Like, let me count all my rings, and then I'll call you back. It just seems weird to be playing hardball with or they're not even playing hardball. From what you're reporting is that they're not even playing ball.
With Miami, they're not playing ball. With other teams, they're trying to negotiate. Yep. So here is okay. So I've made this point numerous times in the last few months. If Miami comes to the table with just a weak sauce, take it or leave it, one of our young players and a couple of picks and Duncan Robinson and Lowry, then I'm like, no, you wouldn't take that. My whole thing has always been the starting base point would be 3 firsts and Hero, and then figure it out from there. Because Hero could be turned into another player or another first. Maybe some swaps were involved. One of the 2 young floors, maybe both of them, who knows, whatever. But you got to sort of iron that out. I just don't believe the Blazers are going to go out and find better than that from anywhere else. Now, if Miami has backed off of that now, because we're 2 months out of the window when this should have been done probably in Las Vegas, if Miami was like, okay, well, we're not even doing this now, we think we can maybe keep Hero and give you something else because we don't think you can beat what originally was reportedly out there on the table anyway. So now we're gonna lower the price. If that happens, then maybe I can see where Cronin's like, okay, now I'm getting a really bad offer, and I think I can at least do better than a trimmed down version of what the original framework was with Miami. Then I can see where maybe you roll the dice going into the season. When I was on with Chris Maddox last week, he thinks that the Blazers start the season with Dame, that things are going to shake up around the league, and that there's going to be some teams out there who are going to decide they really want Dame, and they're going to come with some massive offers. And I don't buy that. Again, that's going to be better than what we just talked about with Miami. And 2, you run the risk of Dame getting injured. And that's not like it's not going to happen. He got injured early last year. He hurt his calf. Right, the year before it was the abs, which he got repaired, and that didn't bother him last year. But at his age, with his mileage, it could be a hamstring, it could be a minor knee thing, it could be an ankle thing, it could be a calf thing again, it could be anything. So then, if he's damaged goods, now the value is even less because now he's 33 and a half, and then if you can't move him at the deadline, you go into next offseason, he's 34. Now you're screwed. Good luck trying to trade him at 34. That's just ridiculous. And anyone who's even interested in him is going to come at you really low ball because you just wasted everyone's time for a year. So the only reason I can see bringing him in this season is if the best deal you can get out there is just 2 firsts and a mediocre player. I probably wouldn't do that. But if you sat down with Miami and actually went back and forth and negotiated, which I've been told hasn't happened, and people out of Miami have reported the exact same thing from their Heat sources, that has not happened. There has not been okay, we want this. Can we get that? Can we do this? Can we do that? That has not happened. And so for me, that's just a red flag because that's where he wants to go. And that's the team that has expressed the most interest in getting him. So at least sit down and have those conversations. If they don't work out, then you can pull back and say, yeah, Miami's being ridiculous. And then you can leak out what they're being ridiculous about through your boy Woj, and then we can all react to it. But to me, if you don't sit down and at least have the conversation with Miami, you're doing a disservice to the franchise and you're doing a disservice to Dame. And I just think we're heading to the point where Dame is going to leave this situation having a lot of negativity toward the people who run the Blazers. And that, to me, shouldn't be worth it because the people running the Blazers are not more important than Damian Lillard as far as I'm concerned. Not in any way, shape, or form. Because at the end of the day, people are going to remember Damian Lillard more than they're going to remember anyone else working in that building who doesn't wear a uniform.
So you know how I feel about that. It's not worth a draft pick to not have Dame come back and celebrate his jersey in the rafters in the long term. Like I just, if it's you guys, the franchise decided to wait to trade him, and this is where they're at. My question in your scenario is, because I'm all about risk reward in life, like that's how you weigh some things. Why would the Blazers play Damian Lillard if he's on the roster? Like, why would he? What is your benefit
to show him that he's a ball and make someone go, oh my God, we got to have him. I don't know. I know exactly.
There's tape. What is about? Honestly, I'm not. No sarcasm, nothing. I'm honestly asking, why would the Blazers, if you bring Damian Lillard back because you don't have the deal you want, okay, but why would you play him when you need to play Scoot, you need to play Sharp, and if you still, have Simons, you need to play Simons. And why would you risk? You're not winning a title with this team. You didn't do it. No one thinks that, right? Playing team.
No. If Damian came back,
so why would you?
If Damian came back, everything went perfectly. No one got injured, which we know is never going to happen. Then they have a chance to be a playing team. But we know that's not going to happen. Nurse going to get hurt. Grant's going to get hurt. Dan's going to get hurt. And so I'm just saying, if they kept them for the entire season, I'm saying, could they be a playing team? If everything went perfectly, they could. But nothing's going to go perfectly. We all know that. People are going to get injured, and then they're going to have losing streaks because of those injuries. So, you have all the same problems you had last year. You got no depth. You got no veteran depth. You're small. You added some length. You added Moses Brown. He's 7 foot, great, but he's not exactly. He's not effective veteran length. He's just a big, tall guy. No offense, Moses, but you don't move the needle in terms of making this team a playoff team with Dame in any way, shape, or form, I believe. So yeah, you're right. You're not going to win this year, no matter how much you say you think you could, because your talent level. And if you play him, you risk injury. So yeah, I mean, the scenario has been broached to me before that Dame could show up, get paid, but not play. Just stay home. Yeah.
Which has happened in the NBA.
Right.
Happened in the
now,
NBA.
Now, maybe
before.
they say, well, we're not going to do that because we want him around and we want to sell tickets. To sell tickets? I don't know.
But honestly, if your goal is to eventually win a championship and you have this contract that you're going to move, if you wanted Damian Lillard to be on the team, you shouldn't have drafted a point guard. I mean, that's a 19-year-old point guard. You're not going to – in the NBA, it's not the NFL where you let a guy sit the bench for 4 years and then you play him at the quarterback position, right? That's not what happens here. You play them. And so I look at it, why would you play him? I mean, what's he going to do? Wow, he's averaging 34. Right. Yeah, we know he's good. You haven't improved. No one's like, my goodness, you know what? I just realized Damian Lillard's a really, really good player, and he might be able to help us. No. So he can either get hurt or which it's never happened because he's always in great shape. But what if he looks slow? And also, he's going to be playing with players that aren't that good. And there's a chance you're going to ask him to play out of position when you bring Scoot in. Because if I'm the Blazers, if I play Damian, which I'm not, I would say, we're going to pay you. You can use our facilities. Just wait. I would not move Scoot to the 2. He's my future. So if you are going to play them together, you're going to ask him to go do something that he's not. I mean, he's one of the best, if not the best, pick and roll point guard in the NBA. So, are you not going to let him do that? Because he doesn't have the ball. It's
asset.
That's the part that gets me every time. Because
he's going to play 32 minutes. That's 32 minutes you're taking away from Scoot, Ant, and Sharp that they could be playing in the backcourt. You're just erasing those minutes for those guys. And for
what reason?
Like you said, showcase him. Why? He's been showcased for 11 years. We all know what he can do. You risk injury. So you can win a few extra games? You don't want to win any extra games. No matter how much they try and pretend like they want to win, this season is headed toward
that'd be bad.
Another tank. I'm calling it right now. Post All-Star break, guys will start having phantom injuries, just like the last 2 seasons. They will be well under 500, and they'll go into tank mode. So games you win early because of Dame are going to hurt you in the end. I'll tell you a story. My Chicago Bulls, Mirotic lit it up. 2017-18 season, Mirotic went off and helped them win a bunch of games. Then they finally, because they were trying to showcase him to trade him, I don't think they ever traded him. But then at the end of the year, they ended up with the 7th pick and got Wendell Carter instead of having maybe the 5th pick or the 3rd pick and maybe traded up to get Luka Doncic, or maybe just ended up at number 3. Like, they just did everything wrong in terms of putting themselves in position to get the best player. So if you have Damian out there playing, he's winning games for you, you're hurting yourself in the back end because you're going to be in the lottery because this roster is not a winning roster. So yeah, it makes no sense whatsoever. I would invite him to camp, let him train. I would not play him. I say, just go home and chill, and we're trying to trade you. Go work out. And if I'm Damian, I'm like, cool, as long as I'm getting my paycheck.
Yeah, I would
do that too. But I'm saying if you're trying to hold out, no, I know. But if you're, yeah,
I'm just saying,
if you're trying to hold out for the season,
just
so you can get other people interested to come and get him. But then are they trading for a rusty player? Like the whole thing is just asinine, man.
And it doesn't. That's not a winning. It's not a proven winning strategy, for these things. I mean, Kevin Durant has to be traded. He got traded. Like other people has to be traded. They get traded. And now we'll see with James Harden, right? Maybe he doesn't this time, but he's been traded before.
I do think Dame gets traded by the deadline. Deadline's a very important thing in here. There's been no deadline. So there'll be a deadline coming up. If they don't trade him by the trade deadline, then it's beyond absurdity. Because now he's going to be 34. And there's no way you're going to get more for him at 34 than you would have gotten right now. So if you don't at least move him by the trade deadline, then it's complete dysfunction junction. So, but at least there's a deadline there where they have to do something. And so they're going to hope that there's going to be other teams who are going to be like, man, if we had Dame, we could win the title. And so they're going to come with a bunch of assets. So maybe that happens. If it does, props to Cronin for pulling it off. But I just believe that they sat down with Miami and worked things out. They could come out with an amicable deal now.
So now, are you a team, if he's been sitting out for 2 months, do you think he could just show up and be awesome? I mean, that would worry me at 33 or 34. So I don't think it goes that way. And I don't see the risk of him getting injured or I don't see risk reward. I see no reward in playing Damian Lillard. All he'll do is prove what everyone already knows, which he's outstanding. That's best case scenario. He's awesome, like he had been, which everyone thinks. Your worst case scenario is he pulls his Achilles tendon explodes. And now you can't trade him at all. But there's a million other bad things that can happen. Players get injured while playing. I mean, that's it. They get injured while practicing. I mean, even though you don't play him in games, guys get hurt in practice. He's still going to run. He's got to stay in shape. And the best way to get in basketball shape is not play basketball. So I don't think sitting him for 2.5 months and then a team saying now we go get him and he's going to be. You can't be in NBA basketball shape without playing NBA games. We know that because we see it every year. I mean, James Harden once came in lost 7 minutes.
He was wearing a fat suit, wasn't he? Wasn't he wearing a fat suit? Because he came here. He lit. Oh my God! It was the first season after the bubble. He came here in an early game and was like 44 and something and looked like the round mound of rebound. And then 2 weeks later, he was all runway models svelte. It was amazing. It was amazing. Anyway, okay. So look, at the end of the day, for me,
can I just say, Fentress's head is going to explode with all this. He can't.
I'm so done with all this.
He can't understand it, so he can't. He can't articulate it.
It's just dysfunction. It's ridiculousness. I roll my eyes at the entire thing. If I didn't cover the Blazers, this wasn't my job, I would not give a rat's ass about any of this. I would just look up every once in a while, see what's going on, and just laugh at it and not laugh. I would have dropped my season tickets, which I did do, by the way. I dropped my season tickets. My 2 season ticket partners didn't want anything to do with this team, so they wanted out because they didn't want to pay for this because they know that the team's going to stink and they're overpaying for their tickets. So the season tickets I had, if I ever want, well, I'd go to every game anyway, but if my family ever wanted to go to a game, I could get those same tickets for half the price that I would have paid for the season ticket, because that's what happens with the Blazers when they're not winning. The ticket value just goes through the bottom of the floor. So the whole thing is just ludicrous to me. But here's one thing I just want to say again. I think I've said this before. At the end of the day, the Blazers went into this thing thinking that they had complete control of the situation, that they could do whatever they want with Dame. They could build around him and keep him, or they can move on with Scoot and still keep him, or if they're going to trade him, they could trade him anywhere. And they forgot that superstar players in this league have some leverage. They have some power. and Dame flexed his power, and then everything got screwed up from there. If Dame had just, not said anything about, well, Miami or nothing, maybe he was traded during, Summer League. But it got personal, it got contentious, and now we're just at a point where it's careening toward this cliff, and the cliff is training camp. And having Dame here's the other thing. You bring Dame to training camp, aside from taking minutes from the guys you're trying to develop, the guy doesn't want to be there and doesn't believe in the team. He knows this team isn't any good, and he wants out. So why do you want the most prominent player, maybe in franchise history, around this team that you're trying to start over with, when that guy basically looks around and says, I can't win with this crew? Like, why would you want that at camp? Why do you want that at camp? Hey, let's bring the camp, the most powerful guy probably in franchise history, and he doesn't want to play with you people. Not individually as people, but he doesn't want to play for this team because he knows this team isn't any good. Why would you want that around? And Dame's gonna be great. I bet Dame would go in there and he'd mentor Scoot. He'd help the guys with the system. He'd be a pro. But he does not want to be there. He's there against his will. Why do you want that? And it's been made personal. It just doesn't make any sense.
So I'm at a place right now that I'm not where you are because I still think a deal is going to get done before training camp, and that this is just part of the noise. And this is what happens. Teams, they're doing everything they can to let people know we don't have to trade them because you don't want to be in a position to be desperate, right? And also you want your fan base to believe that you are able to make the best deal possible. So whatever you're able to get, you're going to say, we were able to get this or this. And this is part of negotiations. And they won some of this because they got the league to come up and say, you can't do this. So basically make Dame and his agent look bad. I mean, that's,
they made it personal.
Or get the fans. Yes, 100%. But the fans can at least tell their fans who are saying, you got to make them play for you. Like, oh, we did. We made it clear. The league made it clear that if we decide not to trade him, that he has to play for us. So it looks more like the Blazers' decision when they trade him. I don't think it was worth it, but I'm just saying, I'm at a place where the Blazers are doing what they think they have to do. Damian Lillard is being quiet right now. His agent is being more quiet. And to me, that means that they have some hope, that something might get done. And I also believe these things happen quickly when they happen. So if they go into training camp and Damian Lillard's on the roster, I'll probably punt and say, okay, well, they got a few days in training camp to make the deal, right? So my thing is, if they're 3 days away from the regular season and there still hasn't been a trade, I'm going to start sounding the alarm of what the heck are they doing? All that matters is that he's traded before they play their first game. That to me is all the first regular season game. And because the deal is all that matters. That's all that matters. And no team's going to be worried that Damian Lillard's, no, it wasn't in training camp.
Well, he'll be training.
It might take a little time, but who cares?
It's basketball's not football. I mean, I think he'll be able to figure out whatever offense the team runs that he'll go join, right?
And whatever you have 80 games to figure it out before the playoffs, and any team that's going to trade for him is going to be thinking title.
Well, yeah, so we hope
they could go 4 and 6.
So let me ask you another question. What if they trade him to a team that has no chance to truly contend? What if they did that?
Why would a team that can't contend trade for
I agree. Lillard? I don't see why a team would. I'm just saying that but
they wouldn't.
The teams out there in the rumor world that he could go to are teams that would not. They're not like a Boston or Milwaukee or Miami, where you say that team's an absolute contender. There's some teams out there that it's like, I guess they'd be a little bit better, but I don't know. I'm just saying, if they did that to Damian, what, like, to me, that would just be the ultimate form of disrespect to do that to him. And whatever deal you got in that situation better be just absolutely amazing and way better than what was reportedly available from Miami. But I'm just saying, if Portland did that to Damian Lillard, what do you think that would mean to the relationship with Dame and this franchise?
So obviously it would be bad. Like, I'm not going to, but I just don't see it as a scenario. I mean, I don't see why any team that's not going to contend would trade for a 34-year-old point guard with the largest contract, 33. But, he's not going to contend this year. A 33-year-old point guard who has, a super contract. Why would you do that?
Okay, so
it makes no
I'm
sense.
a Bulls fan, as you know. So let's say the Bulls said, okay, we overpaid for LaVine. He's kind of regressed since we gave him that money. He's got questionable knees. We'd rather have Dame in his contract because at least now we have a true point guard than have LaVine, and we can roll out Dame, DeRozan, and Vucevic, and we think that's going to be a better trio than what we have right now. Now, I don't know if Portland would even want Zach LaVine, but I'm just saying there's a situation where there's a team that has a star with a big contract, so you're going to end up with another star with a big contract, but one who actually fits what you need more because you need a point guard because Lonzo Ball's been out, and so you're like, okay, we'll take on Dame because it's not that much worse than what we have invested in LaVine. That's the kind of situation where I'm like, again, I'm a Bulls fan, so I'm just spitballing here. That's where I could see where for that team it's a wash almost, not an age, but it doesn't matter because now you got 4 years of Lillard instead of 4 years of LaVine.
So my thing is this: the Bulls go to Dame Lillard and say, "We're going to trade for you." Are you going to be happy?
He's going to say no because he's going to look at that and say,
yes,
"We're not going to contend."
Well, then if he says no, then the Bulls don't make the trade. Why would the Bulls don't make the trade? I mean, you're expressing something to me that I do not think is a possibility.
So you can't entertain it.
I am reluctant to react to it. I just can't. It doesn't make
overall. I'm with
sense
you in terms of it's really we've been saying this for months. It's really, really difficult to believe a team's going to do that. I'm just saying, let's say a team did step up and say, okay, we're willing to move LaVine in this situation. Yeah, we know Dame's going to be unhappy, but we'll try and figure it out, and maybe we'll try and trade Dame ourselves later. The main point is Portland originally was saying they want to be able to send them wherever they want to send them. So if they do that and send them to another mediocre situation, how ultimately disrespectful would that be? Especially if they didn't really sit down with Miami and try and have a legitimate negotiation session with them to try and figure this out. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I can't entertain it because I just don't see it. I mean, I think that there's no team, in my opinion, is going to trade for Damian Lillard just to trade him again because it doesn't make a lot of sense. The asset is difficult to move. That's why the Blazers are struggling to find a partner possibly. So why would you take that on? Why would you take a 33-year-old if you're not ready to contend now unless you really thought – and when I say contend, it doesn't necessarily have to be this year alone, right? I mean, like it's a 2-3 year window, right? So if you were the Bulls and you think with Damian Lillard and some young talent you could be there, maybe. But then you'd talk to Dame about that and you'd have to convince him. No team should take to trade for Damian Lillard if he doesn't want to play for you. That doesn't make any sense. And the precedent in the NBA is as such that you don't do it. Like, I can't think of a situation where someone got traded somewhere as a veteran player with a huge contract who didn't want to go to that team. Like, now I've got plenty of precedent where they went and then decided they didn't like it and they wanted out, but not coming in.
Okay, so then
it doesn't make sense.
So you're saying that if he doesn't go to Miami, he's at least going to go to a contending situation,
or go to a place that Damian
which
Lillard
would have to be a
okay
contending
with.
situation.
Now, what he's okay with,
right?
You would think based on everything he said, right? But
does that team exist? Because Damian Lillard has said he doesn't want to go anywhere else. right? So,
right. Like when I just throw this out that there's nothing on this or whatever, but like Utah, like is Utah a contending team with Damian Lillard? No, but he played college ball there in Utah. Maybe he decides he wants to go there. I'm not saying, I don't think it's going to happen. I'm just saying my requirement for where Damian Lillard will end up starts with where Damian Lillard says he's okay to go.
A mystery team if he changes his mind.
Well, I'm just saying, like, these conversations of how did he get to where he is with Miami or bust, I don't know. And is this also could it be a ploy on their part where they really have 3 teams, but they're going to make, the Blazers think there's only one until they get to a place where it could somehow help them. I think he felt backed into a corner and a little ticked off. And that's why he said Miami or bust. Damian. I think he was like, okay, you told me all these things, and you've always told me that when I want out, that you work with me, and maybe he didn't feel that cooperation.
There's no doubt he didn't feel that cooperation, and so he flexed. He flexed.
And so once he felt he didn't feel the cooperation,
I'd have flexed too. I look. I'm 100% behind what Dame's trying to do. To me, the franchise owes that guy. Period. And I don't want to hear about the money. I hate when people bring up the money. It's like the money is people act like the Blazers did Damian a favor by giving him a bunch of money. Like they didn't have to. They just gave him a bunch of money. They gave him a bunch of money because he's earned the money, and that's how the contracts work. And and
not only that, you just made a huge point. You're not buying season tickets in either of your two partners. And for years, every single corporate deal that the Blazers made, I don't want to say every single, most of the corporate deals that the Blazers made over the last decade had a tie to Damian Lillard. Season ticket sales tied to Damian Lillard. Playoff money tied to Damian Lillard. So he earned the money, and also they gave him the contract with a certain understanding, conversations had. I mean, people, and you're allowed to, in everybody's job, it's your decision whether you work there or not. And sometimes you choose to work at a place and then the circumstances change and you decide you don't want to work there anymore. Now, in most people's world, you just go find another job that will pay you what you hope will pay you equally. That's not how this works. He's got a contract based on how this is. So now, in many jobs, and I've been in a situation where I've had a contract, you can negotiate out, and get a new deal. That's kind of what he's trying to do here. He's negotiating out. He's saying, I would like to go somewhere else where they'll pay me all this money, and then you will not have to. And then you can take on other assets that might save you money to be where you want to be, which is a team that doesn't want Damian Lillard. I mean, that's the part that people are forgetting. They drafted his replacement with a vision to have someone else play his position.
No, they were going to play them together.
Anyone can convince me.
Oh my God, once Dame played with Scoot, he was going to realize how amazing Scoot was and want to stay. People are freaking ridiculous.
Yeah, and that part doesn't make sense because that's not understanding an athlete's mentality. Who's one of the greatest, players in the world. He doesn't think he should move to the 2.
And Scoot can't play the 2.
Yeah, all these things.
Scoot's Scoot's the 5th best 2 guard on the team.
We don't even know what Scoot can do at the 1 in the NBA.
I think
he hasn't played
decent
a game.
At the 1 as a facilitator, but he can't play the 2. He's just not. He's not. Yeah.
I'm just saying he might. My hope is he's great and that he breaks all of Damian Lillard's records
this next couple of seasons
and stuff. But
anyway,
no, of course he's 19. Damian Lillard was.
I'm not debating his future potential. I'm talking about in Dame's window. Scoot Henderson does nothing for Damian Lillard. That's what you're saying. They drafted his
right, other than move him out of position. So I'm going to keep coming down to all that matters is the deal, and all that matters is they make a deal before the regular season starts, in my opinion. And I see no scenario where they should play Damian Lillard on this team. The risk reward doesn't make any sense to me. I do not see the reward of starting Damian Lillard and playing him 27 games and hope the heck that he doesn't get hurt at all, that he looks great. And also, oh, wait a minute, we're now going to limit minutes to our 20-year-old, our 19-year-old, and our 24-year-old that we believe is the future of the franchise. And also, we'll make it very uncomfortable in a locker room, no matter what. And it'll be uncomfortable for marketing people. I mean, there's other things here. Like, there's a whole bunch of people that work for the Blazers organization that need to sell season tickets. They need to sell corporate partnerships. And it's really hard. No one's going to buy a deal with Damian Lillard yet. And if you're not showcasing Scoot yet or Shaedon Sharpe yet as the guy, it's hard to make that deal. So they're just going to be putting a lot of people in awkward situations to be able to do their job. And I just don't see that. I see that as a huge mistake, but I don't think they haven't made the mistake yet.
Last thing before we roll. You're Portland on Miami. I come at you, I say 3 firsts, Hero, figure out what to do with Hero, one of the young forwards, and a pick swap. You doing it? And then salary matching. Duncan Robinson, Lowry, whatever. You taking that?
Yeah. Yes. I mean, that's 3 first-round picks. I mean, and a 23-year-old, really, really good player. And I just don't – the part about the fit –
But you're going to trade him, though. But you trade Hero. Like, you're able to flip Hero into another pick or take Hero in a pick and turn him into something else you want in a different position or whatever. But that's what Miami gives up. Would you do that for Damian Lillard?
I don't see how you get better.
That's the next point. Can they do better than that elsewhere? And ideally, they'd get a legit starting young small forward, right? Because that's the biggest hole in the lineup right now. You get someone, like you'd get you get a Scotty Barnes from Toronto maybe or something like that. But who's giving that up, right, for a disgruntled Dame who doesn't want to play for you? So how do you get there if that's your goal? The only way you get there is if you get some other assets and then make a trade for that guy if the team's willing to give him up for whatever assets you're bringing to him. And then Dame ends up in Miami and that team doesn't have to deal with a disgruntled Dame and you get what you specifically want. So for me, if I'm getting all of this from Miami, now I can go out with that in my own assets and start really trying to build around Scoot, Sharpe, and Ant, assuming Ant's still going to be here, as opposed to try and create all this drama in hopes that I can actually do better than that. When can you? Who's giving you more than that when Dame doesn't want to be there? That's why none of this makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know. And the Hero thing, I'm just not hung up on having to trade him right away. I mean, you're not good. You're trying to go play for the lottery anyway. He's 23 years old. So you play a little small here. You're so worried about trying to play, saying you could play Dame out of position. Well, why can't I play Sharpe out of position? Let him play some 3 with Hero at the 2 and, you play that small lineup as a Blazers organization so many times. And then you show
the argument would be that, it's going to be hard for us to move Hero down the line because of his contract and because blah, 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 blah.
Sure.
Blah.
If you can move him now, move him now. But his contract's done. And by the way, everyone complains about his contract. The new contracts are a lot more than that for guys that are, not as,
you remember when Ant had good. Such a bad contract? Remember that? And then Dylan Brooks gets $20 million less in his overall deal than Ant. Well, Ant to me is worth way more than that over Dylan Brooks. And then Van Vliet gets $43 million a year, shooting under 40%. But you got Ant at 25 a year. Yeah, I mean, come on. These things change overnight in terms of what's quote unquote a bad contract.
You just played Grant
30 a year, right? For 5 years.
A lot of money. And when you look at the stats between Hero and Grant, they're not far apart. You know what I mean? And one's younger, and obviously Grant's taller and can match up defensively, but it's not a ridiculously bad contract in my mind. He's a really good player, and he's 23, and he can potentially get better. And he's a movable asset, in my opinion, next year and the year after. And I just don't understand. Like, you act like you need to have your team together right now. Like, what are you talking about? Your center's Yusuf Nurkic. Be quiet. Like, this is not your team. Like, you're not like, oh, we need to match up position. We need the perfect 5 players right now. Like, stop. I mean, this is not where you are as a franchise. You're going to start a 19-year-old point guard. You're going to start a 20-year-old 2 guard. What's the worst? That's 6'5" or whatever. You play small and you could play big and lose, 55 games. You could play small and lose 55 games. It doesn't much matter. And get your 3 or your 5 in next year's lottery. And then worry about having too many young players that have decent contracts that people want. Like, I'm just not hung up on the, oh my God, heroes. Well, that's a ridiculous thing the Blazers would even think about because they don't need the 2, that spot. I'm like,
but here's the thing though, too. Just for the record, I think Ant's going to start at the 1 or the 2. And Scoot Henderson's not beating out Anthony Simons. If they decide to start Scoot, it's going to be because they just want to start Scoot. He's not beating out Anthony Simons. Anthony Simons is going to light him up in practice.
Yeah, well,
Anthony Simons is he's so far ahead of him offensively. It's not even close.
Save it for training camp.
Close.
Save this for training camp.
He's got a lot to learn before he's going to be able to beat out someone like Ant. I've watched Ant carry that team against NBA teams, and Scoot didn't do that for his G League team. Anyway, all right, we done here, man. We done with this nonsense. So we're about to crank these back up. Camp's coming up. We're about to do these more often, ladies and gentlemen. So we'll be back with more scuttlebutt about this roster, about this team, about this franchise, about Damian Lillard as he moves forward. But that's it for today. Thanks for listening to the Blazer Focus podcast. Please click that subscribe button and give us a positive rating. We would appreciate it. And we'll be back soon.